Well, hello, everybody. Sorry, I walked in a couple minutes late. We will go ahead. And I just want to note before we take attendance, the council president was here at the work session, but she's actually at a meeting right now related to the Pioneer Line of Amtrak. And so she just reached out because she has an opportunity to meet with Senator Winder this evening. He's there also. So she will not be joining us for the evening meeting, but we've got more than enough people for a quorum. I will go ahead and start this. Sorry, I was going to do the roll call, but first we'll have a moment of silence. That's how we observe our invocation. And then that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Agent.
Here.
Clegg. Halliburton.
Here.
Sanchez.
Here.
Thompson. Woodings.
Here.
5 present, 1 absent.
Thanks. Next up, we have a request for approval of the minutes from the work session and meeting of July 20th.
Madam Mayor, I move that the minutes of the work session and regular meeting of the City Council on July 20th be approved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Woodings.
Yes.
Agent.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes,
Thompson. All in favor, motion carries.
Thanks. And next up, we have quite a few appointments and reappointments under special business. I'll take first they're 2 different terms. So we have for the library board, but there's 2 different timings, Nicole Pantera and Brian Clean that I'm asking council to consider for the library board. Ryan Erstad for the Design Review Committee, Michael Wisdom for the Plumbing, Mechanical, and Fuel Gas Board. And then I'd kindly ask that you confirm my reappointment to the CCDC board. And if folks are here online after we've approved these and you want to say something, we'd love to hear from you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I ask unanimous consent that the appointment of Nicole Pantera to the Boise Public Library Board of Trustees for a term ending of July of 2025 be approved.
Without objection. Nicole, are you with us?
Madam Mayor, she is.
Wonderful. Nicole, thanks so much for your service and thanks for joining us tonight. We'd love to say hello.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm having a hard time trying. Oh, looks like she just came on.
Great.
Madam Mayor?
Hi there. We can see you.
Hi, sorry about that. The Zoom is always more difficult than I think it's going to be. I am absolutely pleased to have the opportunity to join the library board. I am a lifelong Boisean, except for a few years in college when I was in Oregon. I love the library. I think it's an important community center. So thank you for your consideration.
Well, thank you very much for your service.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that the appointment of Brian Clean to the Boise Public Library Board of Trustees for a term ending August of 2026 be approved.
Without objection. All right. Brian, you too are official as a new member of the Public Library Board of Trustees. We really appreciate your service. And I believe that you're here, so the clerk will set it up so that you can say hi.
Hi, I'm Brian Clenny. Don't worry. Since first grade, I've gotten all sorts of strange pronunciations of my last name, and I'm used to it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
The other day, I mispronounced somebody's name, and she said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's my husband's name. I just have it now." And I was like, "Oh, that's how I'm going to think about it when people mispronounce my name." But unfortunately, your name has always been your name, so I apologize for that.
I answer to anything. I am a husband, father, grandfather, technology business executive, reader, cyclist, and hiker, and I've lived in Boise for about 17 years. I believe reading, writing, and communicating are critical life skills. sharpened by ideas and knowledge found in books, and I think the library plays a big role in fostering and sharpening those skills, but also in strengthening the sense of equality and community among the residents of our city. I'm really excited about working with the library director and the board of trustees on defining a future for the library that meets the needs of our community and making it happen.
Well, thank you. We really look forward to your service and appreciate the time you're willing to give your community. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I ask unanimous consent that the appointment of Ryan Erstad to the Design Review Committee for a term ending August of 2025 be approved.
Without objection. All right, Ryan is here as well. Thank you, Ryan, for your service, your willingness to volunteer. I enjoyed talking with you quite a few months ago and was glad that we were able to find a position that you were interested in. And welcome.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to serve. I was the student representative to Design Review back in 2009 and 2010.
That's cool.
And we saw about 3 cases then. One had to do with a rock outside of a driveway. One had to do with a jack-in-the-box on Vista. And I might just be imagining the 3rd case, but I look forward to a much more eventful term.
Well, at the very least, since it's 4 years, maybe you'll have 4 rocks and 4 jack-in-the-boxes and who knows? Okay.
Who knows? We'll see what comes. I hope I exceed your expectations.
Really appreciate your desire to serve your city, Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move for reappointment of Michael Wisdom to the Plumbing, Mechanical, and Fuel Gas Board for a 4-year term ending August 2025.
Without objection. Well, Michael has served already on this board, and I really appreciate that you're willing to do it again. This is one of those boards where expertise and experience with the board is incredibly helpful. So thanks for being willing to accept another term. Michael is not with us, but we'll make sure that when the board reconvenes that he knows that we appreciate his service.
All right, Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that the appointment of Mayor Lauren McLean to the Capital City Development Corporation Board for a term ending April of 2026 be approved.
Without objection. Oh, phew. Thank you all. All right, really appreciate it. Next up, we've got the revised findings for the appeal of DRH 21-12. Welcome back, Cody. Good to see you.
You as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. As you'll recall, back in on June 29th, you heard a somewhat complicated application or appeal of the Historic Preservation Commission decision. It included the removal of trees, relocation of a canal, and then proposed demolition of a non-contributing home. Ultimately, council did overturn the decision of the Historic Preservation Commission, and in doing so asked us to return with findings and conditions. Those are included in your packet. It includes a mitigation plan with 7 4-inch trees on the parcel, as well as 5 new 2.5-inch trees in the public right-of-way. Essentially, with the new home, that's really about all you could fit on the site. Also, there's a condition or a requirement that the canal remain uncovered. And I finally note that the applicant has already donated $1,200 to the City of Trees challenge. Bless you. And with that, all of that, we are recommending adoption of the findings and conditions this evening. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Question, Cody. The background memorandum indicates that 10 of the 12 trees would be a minimum of 4-inch caliper, but the site plan tree count does look like 7. Are we going, it's probably the site plan that controls here?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Bajent, that's correct. That was a typo on that memo. It is the 7 larger trees.
Okay, I've reviewed all of these findings and the site plan, and I do think it agrees with what we'd suggested we'd like to see. And when a motion comes to approve this, if that's what we need, I'll certainly be supporting it. Madam Mayor, I would move to approve the revised findings and appeal DRH 21-12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, clerk, will you call the roll?
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson. All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda. All items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, will you call the roll?
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson. All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. And now we will move into ordinances on the first reading.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that all ordinances on first reading be read by number and title only and filed for the second reading calendar.
Without objection.
ORD 39-21, an ordinance relating to the water renewal system of the city of Boise City, Ada County, Idaho, providing for and calling a special election at which there shall be submitted to the electors qualified to vote thereon the question of the issuing of the city sewer revenue bonds for the purpose of keeping upfront sewer rate increases low by financing the cost of necessary improvements to the city's water renewal system, providing details in connection therewith and of the election on the question, and providing the effective date thereof.
And now we will move on to second reading.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that all ordinances on second reading be read by number and title only and filed for the third reading calendar.
Without objection.
ORD 37-21, an ordinance for property located at 8410 West Vincent Street, amending zoning classifications of the city of Boise City to change the classification of real property, particularly described in section 1 of this ordinance and adjacent rights of way from R-1A to R-1B DA, sending forth a reasoned statement in support of zone change and providing an effective date. ORD 38-21, an ordinance entitled the Annual Appropriation Ordinance for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, appropriating $936,838,623 deemed necessary to defray all expenses and liabilities of the city of Boise City, Idaho for said fiscal year, specifying the objects and purposes for which said appropriation is made, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, authorizing a levy of a sufficient tax upon the taxable property, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. And we have nothing on third reading. So we will move into the subdivisions portion of our evening. First up, we have Cody and Ben. I don't see Ben here. Ben, are you online?
Yes,
Simple.
Madam Mayor.
Yes?
Yes.
Great. Okay. We've got the Helen subdivision SUV 21-18. And on these, nobody signed up in advance for this item, nor is the neighborhood association expected to testify. But if you are here and planning on it, please let us know. Go ahead, Cody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. If I could share my screen, please. Thank you. This item is a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision that includes 16 buildable lots on a roughly 3/4 acre parcel. The property is addressed at 1514 South Shoshone Street in an LOD or limited office with design review zone. As you can see here, the property is more generally located a few blocks west of the Overland and Vista intersection, a community activity center. The subdivision was heard in conjunction with the plan unit development by the commission earlier this year. The decision on that PUD was not appealed, so it is only the subdivision before you this evening. The project includes 15 new homes, as well as a historic home that was built in 1935 that had been converted to an office. It will be converted back to a single family home and retained in this project. We worked carefully with the applicant to preserve that single family home, which wasn't included in the original proposal. So I think this is a great example of just how we can accommodate infill and still maintain these important pieces of neighborhood character. It's neat that we don't always see this, and so we're very grateful for the applicant and their willingness to work with us. Each of the lots or homes in the project will be accessed from one service drive off Shoshone Street. The homes will all have the required two parking spaces, and then pedestrian connections will be provided from all of the homes out to either Shoshone or Overland. Those pathways will connect to a required detached sidewalk along each street frontage. While it is only the subdivision before us this evening, I do want to briefly touch on some of the concerns that we heard at the commission. Comments were focused primarily on traffic and design. As it relates to traffic, ACHD did approve the project back in May and confirmed that the immediately impacted roadways would continue to operate at an acceptable level of service. I'd also note that this site is on an existing transit route, and the applicant is required to provide an easement and install a concrete pad in support of a future shelter for BRT. I would also remind you again, that's only a few blocks away from a community activity center. That center includes a number of services, including a major grocer already. So in short, the kind of trip capture and from a transportation perspective, this is an ideal location for this kind of infill. As it relates very briefly to design, again, the buildings aren't before us tonight, but we clearly acknowledge that the townhomes in the project do need some work, especially the side elevations. And the plan unit development that was approved by the commission was conditioned to address that. And that will be worked out in a subsequent required design review application. Finally, as it relates to design, again, the applicant was originally trying to retain more trees. As we worked with them on the revised design and specifically the effort to save that historic home, the trade-off was a loss of trees. But they will be providing 71 new trees, or a total of, I believe, 177.5 caliper inches. That doesn't quite replace the 200 inches that will be removed. But as you can see from the plan, we will ultimately have significantly more tree canopy as they grow. I believe that does conclude my comments. I realize I did focus a bit heavily on design, but did want to acknowledge those comments we had received at the Planning and Zoning Commission. Also, as you can see here, the preliminary plat drawings for something like this can actually be kind of boring to look at. That being said, the commission found the project to be in compliance with the applicable sections of the development code, and consistent with their action, we are recommending approval of the preliminary plat this evening. Thank you.
Other questions for Cody? All right, there are no questions. Ben, if you were here, you're welcome to let us know if you're in agreement with the staff report or if there's something other than that that we ought to know, just you can say that as well.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, yeah, I appreciate Cody's presentation of the project. I think he did a great job encapsulating the process that we've gone through so far, including the redesign to retain the existing structure on the site for conversion back to a single-family home. I did have one thing I wanted to discuss regarding the sidewalks. We are in agreement with the staff report, including detached sidewalks along Shoshone. There is a condition with Overland where detaching the sidewalks, and I'm glad that he left this image up here on the screen. As you can see, we've got extensive trees between what we're showing as a 7-foot attached, not detached sidewalk, and it allows us to plant a lot of trees as well as some foundation plantings along these buildings. We have worked on the end elevations to comply with the comments from planning and zoning, as well as some initial feedback from design review. By detaching the sidewalks as conditioned along Overland, it does create, in our opinion, a negative situation with the redevelopment. While it would provide an 8-foot planter strip between the curb and the detached sidewalk, it would reduce that planting strip between the homes and the sidewalk to approximately 2 to 3 feet, which would then only allow us to plant trees and turf in the planter strip, and then some very limited small perennials and shrubs between the homes and the back of the sidewalk. We feel like that exposes the future residents of this development to the traffic and reflective heat coming off of Overland. And we feel like attaching the sidewalks at 7 feet wide, which would still be a reconstruction of the existing sidewalk, along Overland is more appropriate. It creates a better street presence for the project in and of itself. Again, it provides for a better buffer there between the sidewalk and the homes. And I also wanted to bring to the attention of, sorry, my office light is on an auto timer, that there is no detached sidewalk on the entirety of Overland between Vista and Cole Road on north and south sides of the street, other than at the new ICCU that's on the south side of Overland, approximately 2.5 miles away to the west. Everything else is attached. That includes the new fire station number 8 that was built on the south side of Overland. That's only about between 1.25 mile away to the west. Again, we're in agreement with detaching the sidewalks on Shoshone. There's plenty of room there, but we feel like attaching the sidewalks as well as expanding that area at the corner for the future bus shelter there. And ACHD is working on a new intersection design at that corner. There's a traffic light at this intersection of Shoshone and Overland. And so we'll be able to accommodate some additional space for that bus stop, the shelter. We have to replace a cabinet for the controls on that traffic light, as well as pedestrian crossings. We just feel that that's more appropriate for the project, as well as for the comfort of the future residents. And it would still provide for that pedestrian thoroughfare that is typical of attached sidewalks at 7 feet wide. Again, the 5-foot detached just severely reduces that, and we feel like it would be a negative for the overall project. Touching on just real quickly on the trees on the site, while we're not getting to that 200 caliper inches, there are multiple trees on the site that I've discussed with a woodworkers guild here in town that works real closely with the Treasure Valley Canopy Network. They will be salvaging multiple oaks and I believe a walnut tree that are very mature on the site. So they'll be salvaging that urban timber for use in other projects. So it will not be going to the landfill or chipped for bark or mulch, I'm sorry, or anything to that effect. That's really all I had to discuss. And so I would definitely stand for questions.
Thanks, Ben.
Ben Mayor.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, real quick. Good to see you. I know that the buildings aren't in front of us today. I want to make sure that I'm looking at them correctly, though. It looks like the buildings each have a garage. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Council Member Halliburton, that is correct. Each townhome has a 2-car garage, and the existing home or existing structure on the site that will be converted to a home, it doesn't have a garage currently. We have planned for 2 surface parking spaces for that, which may or may not get converted to a garage. It kind of depends on that interface between the existing structure and a new addition to it. We also have an additional 7 on-site parking spots for guests.
Okay, and then Madam Mayor, just the quick follow-up, and the reason for that question was that's what I thought that I saw in there. I just wanted to make sure that if there wasn't, or in spaces where there wasn't going to be enough parking, that there was also room for bike parking on the property, if not in the garage.
Madam Mayor and Council Member Halliburton, we do intend to put some surface or outdoor bike racks for visitors to this site as well. Shoshone is a designated bikeway, and so we anticipate that this project would allow for the use of not only the bus route, but biking to and from downtown. So we're looking forward to that.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Doesn't look like there are any other questions. And as I understand it, nobody's here for this. Great. All right.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move approval of Helen's Village subdivision, SUB 21-00018, Boise City preliminary plat.
Second.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure if you were done. I thought you were done. Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to echo Cody's sentiment about the developer preserving the house
the existing home on this site. I know that that was one of the major points of opposition by neighbors, was the loss of that house, even though it doesn't necessarily fit historical status the way that a lot of our neighborhoods do. I think it's still been an important structure up on the bench for a number of years. And so I'm really appreciative of this infill project that provides the housing we need while also making sure that we're preserving the structures that are important to neighborhoods. So thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Mhm.
does there need to be a note included in the motion as far as the sidewalk? I guess I'm asking Councilmember Sanchez, is the motion includes Ben's request to leave the sidewalk on the street? Or if it needs the setback, and does that need to be included in the motion if it is allowed to be on the street?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, if the intent is to allow the attached, we would ask that it be included in a motion, please.
What was,
And so we're,
well, what I'd say is, please clarify your intent. And it's as it is, or with the change, or a second, or someone else could propose a change if you wish not to.
so Cody, is that appropriate? Are you, basically what I'm asking, are you cool with this, with the detached, the 7-foot detached or attached sidewalk rather than the 5-foot detached?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Sanchez, our recommendation was the detached sidewalk. Ben brings up some very, very good points. I mean, with the trade-off is additional plantings at the foundation. So I think an argument could be made either way, honestly.
Well, and also we shouldn't put Cody on the spot. This is, the report had one recommendation, and this is an opportunity for council to have a discussion with a motion on the table as to whether or not you would like to change that requirement and add something else in. And that's duly before and open to discussion amongst the council versus staff.
I appreciate Member Halliburton bringing that back up. I think, there's a couple of things here. There's what currently exists along Overland, which is attached sidewalks, which, while it's not ideal to what we would like to see all the way up and down Overland, it's what's there. So I think that having an attached sidewalk would be contiguous with already existing conditions. And so I guess I kind of see it both ways. Like, it would be really nice to have detached sidewalks with trees, and that's what we like to see in new places, and that's what we would eventually like to see all the way along Overland and all the way along Vista. But since that's not the existing condition and the neighboring properties are likely to not redevelop, I'm not sure if we need this one little stretch that has detached sidewalks. And I definitely see Mr. Semple's points about allowing a little bit of extra space in the front yards of these townhomes. And I think that that makes sense. So I would be supportive if the maker of the motion would like to amend her original motion to include or to strike condition 5 and amend condition 5 to include 7-foot attached sidewalks.
Yes, would love to accept that.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, wait. I'm just gonna, because an official thing was just done, gonna reiterate into the record. So the original motion has been amended to include the note related to sidewalks, and we need a second on that.
Second.
Were you the original second?
I'm the original second.
Yeah, so you're good with the,
Mhm.
so the original seconder of the motion agrees to the changes. Now you may.
Cody, my question for you goes to something that Councilmember Wooding said. What is your assessment of the development likelihood in the next 20 years along that stretch of Overland? In other words, are we at the beginning of implementing the types of sidewalks we want to see, or are we just sticking this applicant with half a block of the type of sidewalks we want to see when the rest of the street's not going to change?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Bajent, there's kind of a mixed bag along Overland, honestly, with quite a few smaller parcels. So consolidating those parcels and getting a significant stretch of continuous detached sidewalk could prove to be difficult, certainly.
Madam Mayor, to follow up, I guess my comments on the sidewalk issue are, Councilmember Woodings is absolutely right about what we want to see. The applicant is right that it would be nicer for the residents. The future pedestrian users who aren't here to talk tonight would be right if they were here and said, well, it will be a lot more comfortable to walk on the sidewalk that was buffered from the street in some way. So like Councilmember Woodings, I really can't see this going either way. Yeah. Given what Cody has to say about the difficulty of patching it together and the kind of subjective unpleasantness of having to zigzag as you try to walk like that. And then the other thing the applicant had said, which is removing this condition might allow more options and better infrastructure for public transit on that corner as he redoes the cabinet, and having the sidewalk adjacent to the street will allow him to do better potentially with that bus stop. I will be supporting the motion, which includes removal of the condition on the sidewalk.
Madam Mayor, I'll also be supportive of the motion, and I definitely get if Council President Clegg was here, I think she might be fighting pretty hard for it. But I'm very familiar with that stretch. I ride it frequently to Whitney Elementary School, and there is kind of a tricky intersection there. And I think that the applicant brought up a great point of the improvement of that intersection and the bus structure, which I think is the actual biggest need and the problem on that stretch of the street. And while there is going to be a lot of, I think, redevelopment on that street over time, there are so many small parcels that I think it would be very, very difficult to get that contiguous. So I'll be supportive of the motion.
Great, thanks. If there's no further discussion, I'll have the clerk take the roll.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson, all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Bye, good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have SCB 21-23, Kawano Estates with Cody, and then Dan Lardy. Is you, sir? You're Dan? Great. Okay, we'll hear from you too. And it looks as we're not expecting, but is anybody from the Glenwood Rim Neighborhood Association here? Nope, I didn't expect so. And nobody signed up in advance, so let us know if you're here for this. But otherwise, I think it'll just be the two of you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. This item is a preliminary plat for a subdivision that includes 10 buildable lots on just under 2 acres. The property is addressed at 4601 Mountain View Drive, which, as you can see here, is more generally located on the bench, roughly between Capitol High School and the fairgrounds. The property is zoned R1C, or single family residential, that allows development at up to 8 units per acre. As designed, this subdivision is just over 5 units an acre. The 10 proposed lots will all be accessed from a private street that will connect to Mountain View. The Mountain View frontage will be improved with curb, gutter, and detached sidewalk. The internal street with a very minimal traffic will have attached sidewalk. The properties to the west are well maintained. However, there is potential for future redevelopment somewhat similar to this pattern. And because of this, a condition of approval does require cross access to the west be provided in the event that property be redeveloped. Now the subdivision will result in the removal of the trees that are effectively located center on the site, but there is an opportunity to preserve a number of the trees that line the perimeter. The applicant can speak to this a little bit if they like, but the plan, I believe, is to preserve as many of those as possible. In terms of the subdivision, all of the lots do meet the dimensional standards of the development code. Each home will be required to meet all required setbacks, and that will be confirmed with individual building permits. The project required no change in zoning, nor did it require a conditional use permit or variance. With that, the commission did recommend approval of the preliminary plat, and consistent with their action, we are recommending you approve the subdivision this evening. Thank you.
Any questions for Cody? All righty. Well, welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Dan Lardy, Levin Associates, 1324 First Street South, Nampa. we agree with the staff report. The trees, we will try and preserve the most of, or not most of them, but we'll try and do the best we can as far as saving the trees that we can around the perimeter. The ones in the middle do have to go, unfortunately. During our planning and zoning meeting, we did have a neighbor that had a tree issue to our east. And we've been working with them and we agree with them. And Mr. Quano has enjoyed that tree for a number of years and he'd like to preserve it too. So we're going to work with them and try and preserve that with their arborists.
Great.
With that, I can stand for any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you, sir. I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of SUB 21-00023 Kawano Estates subdivision brought forward by Levitt Associates Engineers Incorporated at 4601 North Mountain View Drive.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson, all in favor, motion carries.
All right, we have now one public hearing, CR 21-16. A rezone at 2605 North Linda Vista Lane. Cody will present for the city, then Andy Thompson.
Madam Mayor, Andy is online.
Wonderful. It's West Valley Neighborhood Association. You, sir, with West Valley? No? Okay. Is somebody online?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right. So at this point, there's no neighborhood association present. I don't have anybody sign up in advance. So if you're online and you're here to testify, please raise your little Zoom hand and we'll call you. And with that, Cody, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. This is a request to rezone just over 1 acre located again at 2605 North Linda Vista Lane from R1B to R1C. The R1B zone allows 4.8 units an acre, whereas the R1C allows 8 units an acre. For those unfamiliar with the area, it's roughly halfway between 5 Mile and Maple Grove, and then Ustick and Fairview in West Boise. The rezone was heard in conjunction with an 8-unit plan unit development by the commission in July. The commission recommended approval of the rezone at that time and did approve the plan unit development. That plan unit development, similar to the project earlier this evening, includes the retention of an existing building. It will be converted to a duplex, and then it includes the construction of 3 new duplexes. The project includes parking that's located internal to the site, and it includes connects to detached sidewalk along the street frontage. The decision on that PUD was not appealed, so it is only the rezone before you this evening. The property is located in a predominantly residential neighborhood with a variety of product type and residential densities. As you can see, there's a mix of both the R1B and R1C zoning, both of which are supported by the suburban land use designation. And then you do have R1C zoning immediately adjacent to the west. And as you can see here on the zoning map, the area has slowly been transitioning over the years to that R1C zoning. Testimony at the hearing was actually quite limited, but did focus largely on parking. As you can see in the record, the project actually exceeds the parking requirements and included a condition that basically capped it to avoid exceeding the maximum parking requirements. Again, though, it is only the question on zoning that's before us this evening. As detailed in your packet, the change in zoning is supported by the comprehensive plan. The area again has been redeveloping at a more moderate urban density for a while now. The proposal simply continues that trend, and it will provide additional housing where services are already available. So with that, absent any opposition from a public agency, we are recommending approval of the rezone this evening. Thank you.
Any questions for Cody? All right. Looks like there are not. So Andy Thompson? Hi there. We can see you.
Here.
Great. There were no questions for staff, so feel free to start, but just in case you weren't able to hear, it's your turn.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm new to the Zoom.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
okay.
hi,
And
my
there's
name's
a bit
Andy
of a
Thompson.
delay.
What's that?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was saying there's a bit of a delay, but because there's a bit of a delay, then we were messed up and are talking over each other. Go ahead. I'm not going to say anything more.
I apologize. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in agreement. Easy peasy.
Okay, all right. Any questions for Andy Thompson?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to compliment the applicant on his brevity.
One of my few skills.
All right. All right. Any further questions then for Cody? I'm going to see if anybody here in the public, were you here for this item or for something else? Nope. All right. Okay. Nobody here in the council chambers is wishing to speak on this. Is there anybody online?
No, Madam Mayor.
There's not anybody online. Okay. The record will reflect that nobody was online or present in council chambers wishing to testify. And with that, I will close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move approval of CAR 21-00016 brought forward by Andy Thompson Construction Incorporated, 2605 North Linda Vista Lane, a rezone of 1.17 acres from R-1B Single Family Residential to 4.8 units per acre to R1C Single Family Residential 8 units per acre.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Madam Mayor. I just wanted to comment on the back and forth that the applicant had between himself and staff and how responsive he seemed to be to requests. And I really appreciate the willingness to reduce the parking. I think that parking spots are less valuable than housing people. And so I think that the more we can give people places to live and green space to enjoy and keep parking to a minimum, the better off we are. So thank you so much for your willingness to do that. And this looks like a really great infill development.
All right. There's no further. Great. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Woodings.
Yes.
Bajent.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Thompson. All in favor, motion carries.
All right. And with that, if there's nothing before
Madam Mayor, move to adjourn.
second, all in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.